The Unedited Journey, Why Your Full Story Matters. I recently had the privilege of sitting down with Mary Lewis, a visionary whose work has fundamentally transformed how we understand authenticity in leadership. Mary isn't just a thought leader, she's a revolution igniter. Her research has sparked a movement that's dismantling outdated paradigms of success, particularly for Black women navigating professional spaces that weren't designed with them in mind. What makes Mary extraordinary isn't just her brilliant mind, but her radical commitment to truth telling. How she's created pathways for others to honor their complete journeys, not just the Instagram worthy highlights that get the most likes. Have you ever noticed our collective obsession with editing our lives for public consumption? We've become master curators of our own narratives. We crop out the messy parts, filter the unflattering angles, and delete the chapters that don't fit our preferred storyline. We've convinced ourselves this is just good personal branding, haven't we? I used to think so too. I was wrong, dead wrong. When I asked Mary about this tendency to sanitize our stories, she said something that literally stopped me mid sip of my coffee. The parts of your journey you're most tempted to hide are often the very parts that hold your greatest power. Let that sink in for a moment, not just intellectually, but let it travel from your head down into your chest where the uncomfortable truths live. The rejection letter that still makes your stomach clench, the business that imploded spectacularly, the relationship that shattered you into 1,000 pieces, the time you froze during the presentation and could hear your own heartbeat drowning out the silence. The medical diagnosis that redefined your understanding of time. Our culture has taught us to bury these chapters, hasn't it? To skip over them in interviews, to omit them from our bios, to crop them out of the highlight reel. We've been conditioned to believe that power resides in perfection, in the uninterrupted ascent to success. But what if we've been sold a magnificent lie? What if the power isn't in the perfection, but in the pivot? Not in the triumph, but in the transformation? During our interview, Mary shared the remarkable story of Dr. Angela Morris, a hospital physician in Atlanta who lost her job during COVID-19 layoffs that disproportionately impacted Black healthcare workers. Now, in that moment, Dr. Morris had options. She could have hidden that chapter. She could have waited quietly for another hospital to hire her. She could have framed it as a career sabbatical on her LinkedIn, the professional equivalent of it's complicated on Facebook. Instead, she did something radical. She honored that painful chapter. She acknowledged the loss, the injustice, the uncertainty, and then she used it as fuel. With nothing but her severance pay and retirement savings, money most financial advisors would tell you to never, ever touch. Dr. Morris launched Atlanta's first Black woman led mobile health clinic, bringing vital care to neighborhoods that the healthcare system had systematically overlooked. She didn't just create a new job for herself, she created jobs for others who had been laid off too. When I asked Mary what made Dr. Morris's story so powerful, she said something profound. It wasn't that Angela succeeded despite her setback. It's that she succeeded because she fully embraced it. She didn't waste energy hiding her pain, she channeled it into purpose. This is what Mary calls honoring your full journey, acknowledging not just your victories, but your losses, lessons, pivots, and pain. Nothing wasted, everything honored. But here's where it gets interesting and where Mary's research challenges everything we think we know about leadership. Most of us operate under the assumption that we need to be fixed before we can lead, healed before we can help, complete before we can contribute. We think leadership requires us to have it all figured out with all our loose ends neatly tied. Mary's research reveals the opposite is true. In our conversation, she introduced me to Joy Truelove's groundbreaking research on Black women entrepreneurs who were systematically excluded from traditional financing. These women didn't wait until the system was fixed or until they had perfect credit scores or business plans. They didn't hide their financial struggles or pretend they had trust funds or wealthy investors backing them. Instead, they formed cooperative networks, community based lending circles, where they pooled small amounts collectively to fund each other's business launches. They were transparent about their journeys, including the economic instability many had experienced. Rather than competing, they collaborated. Rather than hiding their struggles, they shared them. The result? Hundreds of businesses launched through these grassroots models. But more importantly, these entrepreneurs reported something fascinating. Their confidence wasn't rooted in financial gain, but in community alignment. They were healing from financial trauma while simultaneously building purposeful businesses. This is Mary's second key insight. Healing and purpose can coexist. You don't have to be finished to make an impact. Growth is ongoing. Leadership happens in real time. You can be both a work in progress and a vessel for change. I'll be honest, this concept challenged me deeply. I've spent years believing I needed to have it all together before I could truly lead. Maybe you felt that too. That sense that you're not quite ready, not quite healed enough, not quite perfect enough to step into your full power. But Mary's research on the Soft Girl Era podcast revealed something profound. This podcast spotlights high achieving Black women executives who shifted from external validation and grind culture toward fulfillment rooted in authenticity. Many guests describe feeling pressure to hide vulnerability at work, believing they needed to be perfect to be taken seriously. But here's the plot twist that no one saw coming. These executives found that their influence actually increased, not when they became louder or more polished, but when they modeled alignment between their values and actions, when they stopped hiding their struggles, when they prioritized self care not as self indulgence, but as a strategic leadership practice. Several leaders had been overlooked earlier in their careers due to bias, but it was only after embracing their full stories, including the parts marked by discrimination or doubt, that they found true career acceleration. This brings us to Mary's third insight. Real confidence isn't about being loud or having it all together. It's about being grounded in who you are, aligned with your purpose, and obedient to your calling. We've been sold a false bill of goods about confidence. We think it looks like never doubting, never questioning, never faltering. We think it sounds like the loudest voice in the room. We think it means having all the answers all the time. But Mary's research reveals that authentic confidence is quieter, deeper, and infinitely more sustainable. It's rooted in identity and alignment, not applause or perfection. The executives featured in the soft girl era didn't just transform their own careers, they built supportive cultures where others felt safe showing up authentically, creating a ripple effect across teams and industries. Their example challenges outdated narratives about what strength looks like among leaders of color, a movement now reshaping corporate America's approach to diversity and wellness. So, what does this mean for you? For us, it means we've been playing the wrong game. We've been editing out the very chapters that could be our greatest contribution. We've been waiting to be fixed before we step into our purpose. We've been chasing a version of confidence that was never sustainable to begin with. What if instead we honored our full journey? What if we stopped hiding the chapters that don't fit the highlight reel? What if we led while we healed? What if our confidence came not from having it all together, but from being deeply aligned with who we are and what we're here to do? I'm reminded of something Mary said that gave me chills. The world doesn't need your perfection, it needs your perspective, and your perspective has been shaped by every chapter, especially the ones you're tempted to hide. This isn't just feel good philosophy. It's practical leadership strategy. It's emotional intelligence. It's sustainable success. Dr. Morris didn't succeed despite her layoff. She succeeded because she channeled that experience into innovation. The entrepreneurs in Joy True Love's research didn't thrive despite their exclusion from traditional finance. They thrived because they created new models born from that very exclusion. The executives featured in the soft girl era didn't gain influence despite their vulnerability. They gained influence because of it. Your setbacks, struggles, and scars aren't detractions from your story. They're the most compelling chapters. They're where your unique perspective was forged. They're what makes your leadership authentic rather than performative. As Mary so eloquently put it, nothing is wasted when you honor every step you've taken. So here's my challenge to you today. And it's not a small one, it's not comfortable, but neither is leadership. Stop curating your story. Stop hiding the chapters that shaped you. Stop waiting until you're fixed to make your contribution. Instead, take out a piece of paper right now. Write down 3 moments from your journey that you usually hide or rush past: the failures, the heartbreaks, the detours. Then, beneath each one, write what that experience taught you, what perspective it gave you that no one else has. Then ask yourself, what would it look like to lead from that place? Not despite it, but because of it. What innovation might emerge if you honored your full journey? What healing might you facilitate for yourself and others if you stop waiting to be perfect? What authentic confidence might you discover if you grounded yourself in who you truly are, not who you think you should be? The world doesn't need more edited stories, it needs more whole people, people who honor their full journey, the victories and the losses, the highlights and the heartbreaks. People who understand that healing and purpose can coexist. People whose confidence is rooted not in applause or perfection, but in identity and alignment. Mary Lewis has shown us that this path, the path of honoring our full journey, isn't just more authentic, it's more effective, it's more sustainable, and ultimately it's more transformative, not just for us, but for everyone our leadership touches. So today, right now, I invite you to put down the filter, close the editing app, embrace the unedited journey, because that's where your true power has been waiting all along.